Welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or our shortened name, IPA USA. IPA USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association. And back in 2020, my goodness, it's been a long time, we started Porch Play Chats, which were conversations with people who were just as passionate about play as we are. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm president or co-president this year for the next 3 years of IPA USA. And with me on the porch as a co-facilitator is Lindsay Jelski. And Lindsay's going to be joining me, thank goodness, on the porch to help me. And today we have Kirsten Haugen. How are you?
I'm
It is,
good. How are you?
oh, I'm so excited for this porch play chat. I'll tell you a little bit about Kirsten. She's the professional growth and research director at Nature Explorer early and an early childhood specialist. She's very involved in the Dimensions Educational Research Foundation, and she does a lot of wonderful work with Exchange Press. And so Kirsten's going to talk to us today about outdoor spaces that support connection, discovery, self-regulation, and how those that nature experience is really supporting children's growth in social emotional development, just kind of like it did when we were growing
Kind of like.
That we
which
forget.
is a little different than what we're doing today. So talk to us about that, Kirsten.
Well, it's interesting because there are some things from our own experiences, and this I would say goes back, our generation and even up to maybe not quite parents or teachers, young teachers today, but maybe one step back where we had that kind of free range experience. There's another part of our past, though, that is a little bit mixed, which is how we designed or didn't design, how we threw together playgrounds and the
Mm,
kinds of things we put on playgrounds. Yeah, I think we can dive into both of those because there's some like real wonderful historical things that we've done that we could revive a little bit. The freedom that we've given children, the sense of, like I said, the things that lead to agency and discovery, and things we
yes.
know that really help kids grow up happy, because why
Mhm.
not, right? And strong and good critical thinkers and all of that. But then we also have things from the past that I think it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And so in every realm of early childhood and thinking about that, there's always things that we need to remember, recall, and then there's things we need to let go
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. Let's change it a little bit. So
Yeah,
if we
yeah.
if we think about the current playgrounds that you see at parks or on in early care and education programs, um, the plastic stuff
Yeah.
or the stuff that's pretty static.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That, those are the things that I think that was nothing like my playground. I don't know about you. Mine was orchards and dirt fields.
Yes. That's the stuff we need to hold on to. I mean, and I've just recently read Heather Burnt Sante's new book on schema play. And
Mhm.
as I was thinking about our chat today, I was thinking, oh my gosh, that really gets at the root of what's challenging about the fixed, what I call the child-proof playground.
Mhm.
It's like we have taken in so many assumptions, and we've internalized what a playground is, and it's got a chain link fence around it. It's got, impermeable surfaces or protect, like those, it's got
All those cushioning stuff.
everything
Everything's
bolted down.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it comes with a lot of not just rules of don't go up the slide, but also um, things that we say to children. Like we say, go outside and burn off steam. We say, take a break from learning, right? And it's like outdoors can be so much more. And it is when it's
Mhm.
the orchard and the dirt and the creek side. It even is in the fixed playgrounds when children make it their own,
Yes.
right? I think about my kids. There was a chain bridge between two fixed structures on their elementary school playground. And there's a lot of bark mulch, as the surface, the safety surfacing, because God forbid anybody get hurt. And the kids actually dug out the depth of mulch underneath the chain bridge. And they created this cool little fort area. And they would go down there and have, do what kids do when they're in an enclosed space out of sight of adults. And, they'd have their little meetings and plan their adventures. And, then they'd send out, the parties to go and, capture something or, find the food or whatever it was they were doing. And of course, the playground attendants, one of them whom my older child called the hand. You can't talk to
Oh,
the hand, Mom. Uh,
oh.
they they're like, that's not what it's for. That's not what it's for. And so that mentality that there needs to be that things have a certain use and that they're fixed and like I said, child-proof, and that all of that. When I was back to Heather's book, I was thinking about all the schema, and like just transporting and I was going to say projectile, but
Uh-huh. Oh,
and
yeah.
just the movement, all of it. There's a few playground elements, conventional playground elements that support that, but most of it does not.
Mm,
And if we even just use that framework for what children need
mhm,
and deserve and thrive with,
mhm,
we're missing out. And then the kids go from burning off steam and they get herded back indoors and they're
mhm.
expected to make an immediate transformation.
Which, yes, immediate. Like, yeah, and then it's like, wait. And so it's so interesting. I try to help adults recognize that those schemas or what they do when they're on a break at work, right? So many, not all, have, where they're required to have these breaks. And I said, how are you when you get back from your break? How long does it take you to get sort of in back into the workspace? At least 3 or 4, 5 or 6 minutes. I mean, I'm just
Right.
sort of sitting there going, where was I? What should I do? And I said, yeah, children are the same way.
Except we have a few more years or decades of experience with self-regulation and transitions and all of that. We actually, I'm blown away by what young people, young humans can do when they've only been on the planet for, 24, 36, 48, 60 months. It's really incredible, like how much we expect of them. So,
Oh, yeah.
but that notion of transition alone, I mean, it really gets at some of, so in the work I get to do with Nature Explore, we help programs envision and create natural outdoor classrooms. And there's so many different ways of doing nature play in natural outdoor classrooms now. But just for context, I think our sweet spot is where nature and design work together. And
Mhm.
our design is very child-centric. It's research. By research-based, we mean we go out and we talk to teachers who are either in these spaces or transforming their spaces. We listen to them. We count on their observations of children and that sort of thing. So we know the orchard and the dirt and all the things that we discovered that were there for us, what Claire Warden out of Scotland would call the beyond, although her accent is just says that in a way that reverberates. But the beyond is just anything we haven't designed, right? It's outside the fence. And that's what a lot of us were lucky enough to experience as kids. And that simply being in nature, um, the sensory experiences, the oh gosh, what it does to our visual system. Stacy Benja's book, she talks about like depth perception does not develop indoors.
Mhm.
We also know that peripheral vision and does not develop indoors, and myopia does.
Mhm.
So, from our visual system, just how we develop our bodies, all of this benefits from being outdoors. Florence Williams, she wrote this phenomenal book. It's been around for a while now. It's called The Nature Fix. And
Oh,
she
I don't.
in the Nature Fix, she talks like what a brilliant woman. She found a way to get paid to go around the world and talk to people who did research and actually experience things with them, research about the benefits of nature on our health and well-being. One of the really fun tidbits in there, among many, is that even when, like, this one researcher sent people outside in all kinds of weather. And so imagine people going out on a blustery cold day, the wind or rain is going sideways, and they're out there doing something. They come back, the researcher talks to them and says, how was it? And they're like, oh God, it was awful. I'm freezing, da 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 da. Measurements of well-being, even for people who don't enjoy their time outside, still go up, right?
Wow.
So it's not like that happy, oh, I love nature, I'm happy outside, and therefore I have better well-being because
Mhm.
our blood pressure goes down, all kinds of things happen. You don't even have to be happy outside to have that benefit of nature.
It's just that connection with nature that I think everyone needs.
Yeah.
I'm the person that loves to be outside and watch the birds, right? That's
Mhm,
my
mhm.
as soon as I see birds, down I go. Everything, I'm good. Or as
Uh,
soon as I see beautiful flowers growing, everything comes down. We have arboretums in in the east, uh, lots of them, and ours is the closest one to us is Longwood Gardens.
uh-huh.
And so you can just walk and there's water. And as soon as I hear water, oh, everything comes down. It's like it's magical.
Yes.
Yet we don't take advantage of that with these poor children who are so anxious or having so much anxiety with maybe the structure that they're in or not understanding how to be the person that the teacher expects them to be in a classroom um,
Yeah.
in some cases.
Hmm.
So it's that it's if you just took them outside. I remember Bev Boz one time on one of her videos. I can't remember which one it was, or it could have been when I was in one of her workshops. She had a child who had just started, and he was a mess.
Hmm.
And so she went over and got to him. And she said, "Come with me," and she took him outside, and she said, "Run." And he ran and ran and ran and ran around the playground over and over and over again. And then he came back to her and said, he looked at her and said, "Better."
Oh.
Back inside.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's interesting because so this gets back to this idea that nature has its own incredible benefits, and just being outdoors where we have room to move, room to see, we have more sensory input. So at every level of our physiology, we're being supported. It's where we are supposed to be. Um,
Yes.
then there's also the opportunities that we can create in early childhood, elementary, other settings. I hope it goes all the way on up to our workplaces, actually, not even skipping high school. But back to that notion of outdoors to burn off steam.
Mhm.
Outdoors can be so much more.
Oh,
And
so much more.
and that's where because we're dealing with, with Nature Explorer, sometimes we go out and we've got, 30,000 square feet to design. And sometimes we have an alley. We did an alleyway in New York City between
Mhm.
two buildings, and it was junky and full of glass and garbage and everything. And it's a beautiful little space now. We've done rooftop ones. And we do a lot in Los Angeles public schools in their early childhood programs. We're about a third away through their 88 early ed programs of converting asphalt and plastic and the thing you think of when you think of a conventional playground. We're converting those into nature-rich spaces with some thoughtful design that comes from our interactive research with educators. Um, Trusting them because guess what? They know their thing. They know how children thrive. And yet sometimes, again, we have to work with our assumptions, but we can, in that idea of outdoors being a place of restoration, of
Mhm.
agency, of all the things that contribute to good self-regulation and a sense of belonging, we can design that in thoughtfully, working with nature, working with local culture, working with a program's values. So the entry, whether it's from your classroom, indoor classroom to your outdoor classroom, or whether it's from the parking lot, the entry matters because the entry
Yeah.
could say, "We're so glad you're here. This is we know who you are, and you're coming into a magical place." So the entry makes a difference. The transitions that we were talking about before, we can create transitional zones. Although one of the designers I used to work with, Jim White, I remember he was talking about this, about transitions, and like, yes, we can design it, but not everybody has the luxury of a transformation to create transitional spaces. And he's like, so just take a longer route back indoors. Give the kids something that changes their brain space, something to do as they're coming in that allows that transition to happen. But with
Oh,
design, we also, it's like, yes, we want that place for Bev to go out there with that child and let that child run. But
mhm.
we also know that running won't work for every child. And,
Exactly.
and so we want a place where children can go outside and be in a garden. We
Hmm.
want them to be able to go outside and build with blocks or do something artistic with pine cones and, rocks and feathers, whatever's out, whatever they find or what they collect and bring. We want some kids to be able to find a place to explore music or movement with their bodies. So we can design in different learning areas, just like we do indoors. We take our indoor thinking outdoors. We create clear areas. Like indoors, what would we do without bookshelves and rugs and things to delineate space?
Hmm.
That helps kids know where I can move through and where I can work, and it gives them a sense of like less distractibility when they know that they're in a contained area. So we don't, when we design outdoors, we design for big body movement, but if we're going to have those, and we design for the smaller, quieter activities, but we don't put them next to each other, or we might put plant beds between them. We're going to do something, we're going to think about what makes good neighbors. And so we're going to take all that good nature stuff that is there inherently supporting us, and then we're going to create a space that invites children to find what they need in the moment that speaks to them. We know when we do like digging areas, oh my God, if we don't put in a digging area, the kids will
Oh,
put in a digging area
they're gonna
because
dig. Yeah,
and they're going to dig to
absolutely.
the other side of the planet, right? And one of these days, one of us is going to get there. We haven't quite yet, but almost, right? Didn't your hole almost get there? But we'll put in a digging area and we'll put in an area where they can actually like build like fort, like big loose parts. They don't have to build a fort, but they can move big stuff. And there's
Hmm.
a little bit of a hidden agenda there. Um, when kids do heavy work versus aerobic work, whether they're digging in a garden or in the dirt digging area, or whether they're moving heavy stuff or carrying buckets of water to the water table, um,
Hmm.
that has a grounding effect neurologically. And when they do that heavy work and they have that sort of grounding that comes from heavy work, which is different than getting your heart rate going, uh,
Exactly.
they come in to the next activity, indoors or out, more calm, more grounded, more able to focus. And researchers have even documented how that has this sort of shadow effect. So that, those opportunities and it's like we have different areas outdoors that are each a different invitation.
Well,
And
and I think what I'm hearing too is that you're really doing the gardener's multiple intelligence too, right? So
oh yeah,
if
yeah,
if you love if you love, if you're musical or if you're that kinesthetic tactile, I can do all of these things. Um,
right.
one of the videos that Kim Adams has, Kim's in California,
Yeah,
and when we were doing the session at NAYC, one of the videos, remember the one with the wheelbarrow and he was moving and he was
yes,
pushing and he was
yes.
all of that amazing physical work inside is just strengthening all those muscles that they have that need to be developed and is also helping to ground them and to give
Yes.
them that input that some kids like to, push on their shoulders because
Hmm.
they need that
Hmm.
release. It's that heavy sort of pressure
Right.
stuff that they're feeling that is really helping that child ground themselves.
Well,
So,
and it's operating at yet another, it's operating at both of those or all of those levels, and it's operating at the level when children are choosing. Of course, we know that play is
Please.
freely chosen. Um, but when it's freely chosen from a variety of options that indicate the adult trusts the children to
Mm,
choose and trusts the children to do slightly dangerous things, um, then they also come in with that attitude of like, wow, you know, Deb trusts me to play
mm,
with these big logs.
mm,
Lindsay trusts me to use a hammer today when
mm,
she's right nearby, right?
mm.
And that sense of relational
Yeah.
pride and trust and confidence that comes, we're borrowing, children are borrowing our mental state all the time. So if
Yes.
we're kind of freaked out and worried about them, they're going to either push against that or they're going to be freaked out and worried about themselves. So even every little thing we do outdoors operates at that physiological level, at that relational, socio-emotional level, and at that neurological level.
No.
And
Yeah.
and we can, and then the kids do that choosing because they can see different possibilities. One of the phrases, and I don't even know who came up with this first, but it's a guiding light for me that, and we use it a lot at Nature Explorer, is who's doing the thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And
Please.
right? And so many,
Please.
if the teacher has cut out every little thing and done all this and has, this is how you do it, this is, or if the climbing equipment says, go up the ladder, go down the slide, the children aren't doing the thinking and they're not doing it with their brains. They're not doing it with their bodies. They're not doing it with each other. They're not doing it verbally. They're just either going along with it or pushing against it.
Yes.
And instead, oh, well, it's, you can tell I'm a little passionate about this.
And thank goodness.
and I feel like that's the part that, at least for a lot of the parents that I deal with, that's
Mhm.
the part that I'm trying so hard to show them, like it's okay. Like give them the little space. Not, you
Mhm.
don't have to have every single thing planned, right? And I had heard there's a new word out there to, like, right, we had the helicopter parents, the bulldozer parents. Now it's the curling parent. So the
Uh,
curling parent is smoothing it out, removing all possible
Oh,
the,
obstacles, and actually creating the smooth path for the
mm,
child to go on. So they're not even allowed to deviate from that path because it's not
mm,
smooth. And I feel
mm,
like that to me is what I witness all the time, even with my play events. Like, there's a reason why the signs at my play events say parents sit back and enjoy your coffee, right? Because I'm trying so hard to break that part
yeah,
of it. But also too, because you do so much with all the different work that you've done. And I feel like one of those main obstacles that we all come through is how do you get that naysayer on board, right?
mm,
You know, like
right.
I've had people say we're not even using mulch anymore because they can get embedded in a
You
cut.
might eat
Yeah,
it.
and I'm like,
thank goodness.
but they could do that with the paintbrush inside the classroom too. So what is the
Yeah.
difference? So how do you handle that when you come across it?
Well, I mean, that's such a good point because a lot of times some of the harmful things that children do come from not having enough experience or enough choice. I
Mhm.
firmly believe, and I've come to believe this in doing endless work outdoors with kids where risk is involved and whatnot, is that safety is not embedded in the physical environment. You don't have safe environments and unsafe environments.
Mhm.
Safety is embedded in our relationship to the environment. So for
Mhm.
instance, playground safety standards. You can, in a playground, put a picnic table on concrete or asphalt or
And
whatever you want, and that's perfectly okay. You cannot put anything that's called climb. You can put
Mhm.
landscaping borders. They don't have to, they can
Barriers.
adjacent to concrete or whatever. All of these things. And then climbing equipment needs safety surfacing. Well, why is it that we don't climb on picnic tables? Um, if you do parkour like my older child, then you do climb on picnic tables and you leap over them and it's like freaks your mother out, but it's really cool,
Mhm.
and you land and you do it and you keep doing it. But I mean, it's only our agreements and our understanding of what's the purpose of this that makes that picnic table safe on concrete
Mhm.
versus the climbing structure. And I think we actually can see in some of the research that there are more challenging injuries on conventional playgrounds than in nature-based programs.
Yeah.
In
Charlene Wooden Brinkman would say yes, because she
Yeah.
was a principal at an elementary school for years with no broken
hmm
bones. They
hmm
put in the
hmm
spongy surface. She had broken bones.
Right? Yeah, and a lot of it I think is because when both children and adults see a playground and they think, oh, it's made for kids, it must be safe.
Uh-huh.
Compared to climbing on a log or a tree, oh, that came from nature. There's probably something going on here that I'm not quite sure about.
Mhm.
And never mind that our sensory experience, again, thinking about all the levels that we're interacting. When we're climbing on something where everything has been engineered to 1/64th of an inch, nothing, everything's the same diameter, the same distance apart, everything's predictable. Um, we don't have to engage our full brains and bodies in managing that. We don't get very much input back into our brains. When we're climbing on a log or grabbing a branch, every one of those feels different. It's a different angle, a different texture. All of that proprioceptive input is coming back to us. That vestibular, balance is different. We're having to test each branch to see is it one I can hang on to or not. So we're using our vision, we're using our critical thinking skills, we're using prior experience, we're, listening to the adult who's saying, "What's your plan?" And all of that's going on. So the brain is engaged and making active decisions and interacting with the environment. When a brain is working, it's growing. We don't grow our
Making
brain
connections
passively,
and learning
you
about
know?
those prior experiences.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have
And
to, but you have to experience it.
And
It
and
so come back
you
to your parkour statement too. There at the task conference in Rochester, there was a gentleman there who was presenting who does parkour in Rochester, and he
Mhm,
had talked about research that was looking at how because we're always falling on soft items, we're not
mhm,
learning how to fall correctly.
right.
And then when we turn older, we're falling, assume our body is so conditioned to thinking it's going to be soft, and it's not. We're then hurting ourselves more because we haven't
Mm.
learned to fall on hard surfaces.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, there is a balance here, and of course, when we were playing without the parents too nearby, and we had a hammock, and we thought it'd be really cool to spin it around. My friend Siri did fall out; she did break her arm. Things happen, um, and if back to who's doing the thinking,
mhm.
every one of us learned a lesson that day.
Yes.
Um, and I'm not advocating injury as a pathway to lessons, but I do believe in splinters and bumps and scrapes.
Yeah.
I believe in the that moment when an adult cares for a child who has a minor injury, the
Mhm,
tenderness that can happen. I believe in the resilience that can come from saying, I got hurt, but I got better.
mhm,
I believe in the critical thinking that comes from, oops, maybe I'm not going to do it quite the same way next time, and therefore my brain is engaged more in the future, and it goes on and on, and we too often conflate
mhm,
compliance with good behavior when we really need to be thinking about and never mind good behavior has got its own problems but compliance is not the same as critical thinking, and if there
mhm.
were ever a time in history that we need critical thinking in our
Oh
children
boy.
and our adults,
Yes.
we need people to say what's going on here.
Mhm.
Am I safe? Are you safe? Is there something we can do to how can we work out this problem? All the things that come. I'll share a quick story. This is one of my favorite stories. It came out of a school in Florida, and I had been gone to do professional development with the teachers for their outdoor space, and they had had it for about a year. And they said, well, one of the problems we're having right now is the kindergartners are learning about pollinators, and they really want to save the flowers for the insects. But the first graders have this incredible mud cafe that they've created in the mud area, and they're making cakes and they're decorating their cakes with the flowers that the
Mhm.
kindergartners want. And so what should the rule be?
Oh boy.
I was asked what the rule should be. And I said, let's ask the kids. So every
Yeah.
one of our outdoor classrooms has a gathering area. So we brought the first graders and the kindergartens out to the gathering area. And we said, we've noticed this, you guys want to say, feed the pollinators and make them happy, and you guys want to continue the amazing cafe. I had a mud latte. It was beautiful.
Wonderful.
I can't say it was
Yum.
delicious, but it was beautiful. And anyway, it was just one of these moments that happens over and over again, and it's still magic. We asked, what do you think we should do? And one child very quickly said, we need two gardens, one for the pollinators and one for the cafe. Beautiful. And then
Beautiful.
this child, because there's always a cynic in the crowd. And he goes, yeah, but the cafe is going to run out of flowers. Then what do we do? And
Mhm.
um, and of course we need our cynics, right? And then
Yeah.
another child is like, we'll just have to plant more flowers.
There you go.
And all of that was such a much more elegant solution.
Hmm.
And I firmly believe when kids make the rules, the buy-in is there, you
Yep.
know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and instead of it being like, what? You're saying I can't do that? I can't do this? Why? I mean, then all their thinking goes into how do I get around this or why are you stopping me?
Hmm.
But when and young children, they don't always make the perfect agreements. We sometimes call them agreements rather than rules. But they almost always make agreements that make sense to them. And then when it doesn't work, they're willing to renegotiate. And so again, who's doing the thinking? The kids are doing the thinking. Who's doing the learning? The kids are doing the learning way more effectively than being told what to do. And
Exactly. Oh my goodness. And when we think of the restrictions that we give to children thinking, this is and it I just go back to math, right? Because my husband's wonderful at math. Me, I'm okay at math. But remember you you don't look in the back of the book, but that's where the answers are, right? So why the rule is, you can't look in the back of the book, you have to do the work. And then you can check your answers if you choose to. Well, that was the stupidest thing an adult could ever say. I mean,
right, right.
don't tell me the answers are in the back of the book. I need to figure it out. But it 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 is just so amazing to me how we interfere with the natural learning process. And we haven't even we've talked a little bit about risk, which has to be the next Porch Play Chat. But
Yeah,
the 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 big piece that I think people who are listening to this one will get is that you can create spaces
Hmm.
that honor children's interests and allow them the freedom to make of it what they choose to instead of have all those rules
yeah.
that
Yes,
are, hey,
yes.
don't
Where
run on
does
the sidewalk. You might fall and hurt your leg. Okay, where are you going to be? What's going to happen when you're not there and they're running on a sidewalk? They need to figure out they're going to fall and it's going to hurt.
yeah,
And they'll get up and they'll get some love and attention and they'll get a band-aid and we'll move on. It's
right, right.
it's that getting yourself back up after something that um, has maybe hurt your physical body or your mental thinking. You've got to get back up.
Yeah.
And we don't give them that practice of,
It ties into
The
the empathy
practice,
aspect too. If a friend falls and everyone's always used to the adults rushing to the aid and handling it, then the children around are not going to be
yeah.
even paying attention when a child falls because they've never learned how to interact with that. Where
Mhm.
if you have a child that's engaged with that and is able to bring themselves out of the situation and then they see the next child fall, they're the first one there to make sure that they're all right because they've learned that aspect.
right. Well, and we can go back one step further. If we are imposing a lot of rules to keep kids safe,
Mhm.
what is the bulk of our interaction with those kids? It's telling them
Negative.
what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
If we are instead having conversations with kids and eliciting their ideas, pointing out things like, wow, I noticed that that branch or whatever looks a little wobbly. What's your plan? What are you thinking? How are we going to do this? Or, in time when I was on a nature hike I take kids on nature hikes as a part of our little local nearby nature program. And
Yeah.
we don't get the same kids every time, but there's going to be sticks,
Mhm.
and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so what are our agreements? And, they wanted to be able to carry sticks. I said, okay, what are some of the things we need to be aware of? And we talked about how sticks could, and of course, the way things happen, life is not, this is not going to solve every problem. The sticks are getting a little wild with two kids in particular. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that agreement about sticks, it's not quite working. Let's circle around. Let's talk about sticks again. And one of the and it's the whole group thing. I'm not singling anybody out, but
Right.
one of those kids is like, um, well, the stick has to be as long as it can only be from your elbow to your fingertips. These were like, I think, second graders. And I thought that's definitely worth trying. If we do that in our other agreements, this should work. So the kids, and then he says to me, "Can I use your arm?"
No, that's a
And
wow, I
I'm
love
just
that
like,
part.
I want to know where, and of course he's the kid who gets labeled as the troublemaker because he
Mhm.
took a lot more of my effort than the other children.
Mhm.
Um, but he's the kid who's doing the thinking. And when he's given permission to do the thinking, he's actually working with me rather than against me. Our
Yes.
back to our LAUSD work, Los Angeles Unified School District work. Um, where we have a lot of similar programs, some with outdoor classrooms already and some waiting. We have some rough evidence that the things that some of the differences in the data that they collect on a regular basis, no matter what, is the schools with the outdoor classrooms, the natural outdoor classrooms have fewer accident reports,
Yep.
fewer
Mhm.
behavior reports, and
Mhm.
better staff retention.
There you go.
And so that goes back to like, what do we do as adults in these spaces? Like, what's my role? It's not child anarchy, kids do whatever they want. It's a relational approach. It's building our relationship with the children, building our relationship and the children's relationship with the space, honoring their connection to the space. And this is why I love that we work with nature centers and libraries and hospitals too, but the bulk of our work is early childhood. And why I love that is if a child is in care from birth up to kindergarten, they might spend 12,000 hours with you.
Mhm.
12,000 hours. The potential that we have, the dominance of the bulk of their daily life is with us in our
Mhm.
care. And that means it's up to us, and we have the privilege and the
Mhm.
honor to create spaces and schedules and time, experiences that, I mean, wow, we have a lot of power. And we can use it for good or we can get into control mode.
Exactly. Yeah. You can
But
benefit or you cannot. And,
and, and then our relationship, if we're back to the rule thing, like if we're doing rules and compliance, that's our relationship with the kids. If we're doing this, watch, support, have conversations, comfort that child that did get the splinter.
Mhm.
Would you rather spend your day in that kind of caring relationship or in a controlling relationship? How are you going to feel at the end of the day when you go home? What's your
Mhm.
blood pressure going to be? All those things. So, again, we kind of also believe that a lot of these transformations can happen better outdoors, because some of the same things we do want to see indoors as well. Some of the relational things, some of the letting go of a rigid top-down curriculum, and let the children take more of the lead. For some
Well,
people, it's easier to learn that outdoors than indoors.
and I still think that we've reached a tipping point where people are beginning to recognize, right? Which is, I think, powerful, but needs to be approached in a cautious way. The pendulum's gone this
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
We don't really want it to go back this way, or maybe sometimes we do. But but I really think people are beginning to get it. I feel parents are starting to see what's happening. And I feel that teachers are recognizing this is not working. And now we have to figure out, and something I really want us to talk about later is it's the, because in programs that I talk to and I say, oh, have you thought about, blah, blah, blah. They'll say, oh, we can't do that because the playground inspector won't let us. And
Yeah.
so I really think that that is a systemic piece that I think we need to get them all in a room and say, okay, let's talk about what this rule is preventing from developing. And let's talk about what this rule is preventing from developing so that
Right.
they understand, because they're probably people who are regulators in a
Mhm.
way, so they think
Mhm.
about the rules instead of thinking about the long-term outcomes. And so I think
Well,
that that's the way to approach it. When you,
And well,
and-
I sat in on a presentation about winter play, and they were
Mhm.
talking about like the snow saws.
Yeah.
So like we have them here. We've used them in our forest school and everything. And like, so we have like little kids using it. And then some of the people are like, well, how do you handle that with licensing and so forth? And the way that it was explained was these are your programming materials. This is how these are the materials you're using. So it kind of like bypasses that concern in some ways because there's a lesson taught with it. And I
Yeah,
really
and I
feel
would
that's
also
important.
just to I will say some of our best advocates for natural outdoor classrooms are there are playground safety inspectors who are amazing advocates for nature play and natural outdoor classrooms and risky play. Not all playground safety standard, inspectors are created equal or have evolved equally. And so it's a common issue that people encounter. Like, how do I translate this naturalized environment and these loose parts and everything into something that the safety inspector can understand? But like Angela Blankenship, she's with the Brad Development Corp down in Arkansas. She's been a playground safety inspector, and she does incredible work creating natural outdoor classrooms in for their organization. And we've worked with her for a long time, and she can articulate that and actually becomes an advocate. Other times, the director or the principal or whoever is in charge of the site and a meeting with the inspector has to be an advocate and has to be able to articulate. There's a difference between somebody who has carelessly left things strewn about and somebody
exactly.
who's providing materials for children in a way. Children also appreciate the organization, and when they know where they can get logs and branches and where they can get the flowers and where they can get all the things, the shovels, whatever they need, they actually, when they, it was Ellen Veselak and Chris Kira who did some research on time, space, materials, relationships. They looked at classroom documentation. And one of the things was that children actually kind of anticipate um, their creative options when they're going into a space, indoors or out. And they anticipate the amount of time, and they know they know if they only have a little bit of time, it's like me coming home from work. Do I have enough time to like make a fancy dinner, or am I going to microwave something from Trader Joe's, and the results are different, right? When we have time. And so time is one thing we can give kids, organized spaces where the materials are in predictable locations. They don't always have to stay exactly the same. It's going to change with seasons, but the big stuff is going to be in our large loose parts area, and the small blocks are going to be in our table building area, and I know where the pine cones are going to be. I know where these things are going to be, so I can come outside with a plan, um,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
and I know where to go. And if I want a quiet, calm space to work, I'm going to go to the art area or the table building area because that's got enough buffer from the high energy zone. So I've got a place to go, I've got the materials I need, and I've got the time to get into flow, which we know
Yeah.
is an important part of play. And
And I know, and I know what I want to do when I get there. Because
yeah,
yesterday I did this. but today I'd like to change it, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
forward thinking.
And those changes over time, right? Oh my gosh, like there was this program in South Carolina, and this little guy, they had those beautiful community playthings blocks that look a little bit like giant wooden Legos. They've got
Yeah,
nozzles,
yeah.
and they had those the Outlast blocks. And every day, this one kid would come outside, build a platform, build a drum kit out of those, sit there and play the drums, and then put it away. And then the next day we'd do it again, and it would always be a little bit different. I've seen this like, in Colusa, California. There was a while where every day these kids were building new vehicles. And the
Oh,
vehicles and the teachers are smart, thoughtful, observant people who are noticing the subtle differences and the transformations and the elaboration
mhm.
these vehicles each day. Like, oh, we've got to see, like, is it steady? How many people can get on this? Does it have wings? Does it have propellers? How are we going to represent propellers? All of the things the decisions they're making, they had that predictable time and space and supportive adults, and the materials they needed to elaborate on this over time. And
If we just give them time to do it.
right. We could
Oh,
do a whole
Kirsten,
porch play on time, right? We could,
we
I'm
can. Let's
freedom.
do it next time.
yeah.
So we have to go. We've got Rachel in the waiting room, but I wanted I want to thank you first. This is sort of the things that we need to help others recognize, right? And to think about more deeply, and then to figure out how can you navigate that in
Right.
in the program, in the school, in the classroom that you're currently working with. But you have gotten so many listeners, you have gotten so many ideas just from this 25 or 30-minute chat. So be thinking about what you could do tomorrow or Monday when you go back. So thank you, Kirsten. This is
Yeah, thank
amazing.
you.
Oh,
Thank you.
it's
Just say, oh, I know I just get so excited.
I do too. I do too. And it's a privilege to be on with you and to have these kind of conversations. Yeah, and we're here as a resource. We
Yeah.
do design, but we also combine that with professional development and coaching and things so that it's a kind of a wraparound, not just dump you off in a new space and say go do. But anyway, so if people want to get in touch with us, we'd love to. It's my passion.
It's a resource that is valuable if you're wanting to make change. And
Absolutely.
so be thinking about the changes that you could possibly make. Start dreaming about that.
And we learn so much from people that we work with, and the conversations like this, it's the fuel for my heart and my soul. So yeah, let's do more of this. It's just
Let's do more of this. So stay right there while I close this out.
okay.
To learn more about IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. And until next time, keep on playing.